Hi, I'm Daniel Andrews, owner and creator of Andrewsfootball.com, and for my next video I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to break down the remaining 13 games for Week 10. Now, if you watched my previous video, I went ahead and I took Seattle in 6 points. It was an actual push, the final score being 22-16, but of course I nailed the under. The over-under was 41.5. 22 plus 16 is 38, so I went ahead and nailed that. Now for the other 13 games, on the schedule here, the first game I'm going to talk about is the Minnesota Vikings traveling to Washington. Now, if you watch my previous video, of all the games this week, this is the game I like the most. You have Washington traveling cross country. They go ahead and travel all the way to Seattle. They get a big win. Now they got to travel all the way back home against the Minnesota Vikings, who are fresh off of a bye. Now, the Vikings, what they did is they're getting Case Keenum ready to go. Sam Bradford's on IR, and they went ahead and activated Teddy Bridgewater. But even though Teddy Bridgewater's practicing, I do not expect him to play at all this year. I think you're going to go with Case Keenum throughout. And this is a good opportunity for the bye to get him more familiar with the offense and the team. But this team relies on defense, and Minnesota may have the best defense in football. Like I always say, if you got a line that's under 3, always take the better team. Minnesota, I think, is clearly the better team. Despite the fact that Washington had a big win, they had a big win on the other side of the country. Now they're traveling back, and they're not going to win this game. Minnesota easily covers 1.5. Next is Green Bay traveling to Chicago. This opened up as Green Bay being a 5-point dog. That's jumped up to 5.5, while the over-under went from 38.5 to 37.5. This is interesting because what it tells me is that the general public feels better about Mitchell Trubisky, the rookie, making his 4th start versus Brett Hundley, the guy's been there for a few years, making his 3rd start. Now, I do like Chicago's defense, and I do like the running game better than I like Green Bay's, but I like Green Bay to cover 5.5 this game. I think it's just a matter of time before Mike McCarthy and Brett Hundley kind of get together and figure out what he does best and the offense to kind of sync. I'm not saying that they're going to win this game, but they should cover 5.5 this week. I get a good feeling about it. Next up on the docket here is Indianapolis opens up as a double-digit home dog to Pittsburgh. The over-under went from 43.5 to 45. I think 43.5 was a little low for the game. The general public thought the same thing that I did, so it's jumped up to 45. A lot of action on the over. But I like Indianapolis to cover 10. Now, I'm fully aware that Vontae Davis was cut this week, arguably the Colts' best defensive player. You also have him and Malik Hooker, who's out for the year, so half their starting secondary is out, but I still like the Colts to cover. I think Pittsburgh's going to win this game, but I could see it being 28-21, 27-24, something along that line. I think the Colts are going to make this a lot closer than people think. I really like what Jacoby Brissett's been doing. I think he's going to have a good game. I do think Steelers win, but the Colts definitely cover 10. Next is a really interesting game. The Los Angeles Chargers are traveling all the way to Jacksonville. Now, this opened up as a 4-point game. It's now jumped up to 4.5. But now, the thing is, though, is that the Chargers opened the season losing their first 4 games. Then they won 3, and then they lost last week to New England. But I really think they turned their season around. Now, this is a very unusual game because I do like them to cover 4.5, but if you're feeling a little funky here, the money line's 190 on this game. So I would actually put a little bit, if you are going to wager this game, I would go ahead and take the 4.5, but also put a little bit on that money line because I do like the Chargers to win this game. I do like the direction that Jacksonville's going in. I don't believe all the hype. This may be a game where they come back to earth a little bit. So take the Chargers and also take a little bit on the money line. Now, this next game, if you would have told me before the season starts that the Jets were going to be a 2.5-point favorite at Tampa, I probably would have fell out of my chair, but that's the case. With Winston shutting down this week, I think he's going to come back, but this is a situation where Tampa really has to look forward to next year, and I'm going to talk about this later in some other videos after the season's over. I'm going to break down the draft quite a bit, but there could be as many as 6 quarterbacks going in the first round of the draft. Tampa Bay obviously is not going to take a quarterback, so they're going to get a really good player. But that's a little later down the line. And next up here is the Tennessee Titans, a team that if you've been watching my videos, you know that I like them. They're a 4.5-point favorite at home against Cincinnati. I do like Tennessee to go ahead and cover this and win the game and keep going. The way I have these games broken out with Jacksonville losing, Tennessee winning, is that right now they're tied, but Tennessee in week 2 beat Jacksonville, so technically they're the leader in the NFC South. After this week, I like Tennessee to have a 1-game lead in that division. Next up is the game I'm really looking forward more than any other game, and that's the New Orleans Saints, winners of 6 straight going to Buffalo. Now this line went from 2.5 to 3, and the over-under jumped from 46.5 to 47.5. That's a really big number, and the line jumped up an extra point. So what this shows me is that the general public thinks the same thing I'm thinking, and that the Saints aren't going to really have a problem with Buffalo's defense. A lot of people may think that these two teams are not familiar with each other, but that's not the case at all. Both Brandon Beane, the GM, and Sean McDermott are from Carolina, and they're running everything pretty much like Carolina did, trying to recreate that 15-1 season from 2 years ago up in Buffalo now. Now, while I do think that Buffalo has a very good chance for a wild card spot, I don't see them winning this game. I like the Saints in 3 points, and this is going to be a real good test for the Saints to see if they can go to 7 in a row, but I think they do. So watch out for the Saints, NFC teams. Next up here is Cleveland. Now, this is very interesting because Cleveland's going to Detroit, and this jumped down 2 full points. Cleveland opened up as a 12.5-point dog. Now they're 10.5. For those of you that are new to Andrewsfootball.com or new to Vegas gambling in general, a 2-point drop is huge. Matter of fact, I think this is the first one we've seen all year. So the general public thinks the same thing that I think, and that this game is going to be a little closer than a lot of people would think. I do think Detroit wins this game, but I do not see them covering. So go ahead and take Cleveland in 10.5 in a game I don't love but like. Next up here is Houston is a 12-point dog traveling to Los Angeles to play the Rams. The Rams are red hot. That said, I don't think that they're going to cover 12 points. That's a very, very large number. I think this is going to be more of a lower scoring game than the 51 that they put up last week. But go ahead and take Houston in a game I don't love, but I like Houston to cover 12 this week. Next up for my Cowboys fans is Dallas traveling to Atlanta. Dallas is a 3-point dog in this game. And even though they don't have Ezekiel Elliott, I'm really high on Dallas in this game. Atlanta seems to be falling apart on offense, and their defense really doesn't seem to be much improved over last year, and their defense wasn't really a strength. So I really like Dallas to go ahead and actually win this game, but just go ahead and be safe. Go ahead without Ezekiel Elliott, take your 3 points and take a win there. Next up, I got the Giants traveling to San Francisco. This is an unusual situation. When I brought up earlier with Detroit and Cleveland was that Cleveland was a 12.5-point dog. That dropped all the way to 10.5. A 2-point jump is extremely rare. I don't think it's happened at all this year. In this game, you went from a 1-point favorite to 2.5. The 1.5-point jump is a big jump, but like I've always said, if you got a line of 3 points or less, always take the better team. In this case, the Giants are the better team than San Francisco. And for Sunday Night Football, this is going to be a really good game. I'm very excited to watch this. It's Denver Broncos at home. They're a 7.5-point dog with New England coming to town. Now, traditionally, the reason why I like Denver is traditionally Denver's always matched up very well against New England. New England likes to employ multiple wide receivers. That's something Denver's able to go ahead and counter. Now, I know they got blown out by Philly last week, but this is a little different situation. They're at home, at Mile High, Sunday Night Football, prime time. The Patriots are coming to town. I definitely think they cover 7.5. I do think the Patriots win this game, but I like Denver to cover 7.5, and I think they're going to go ahead and start getting things turned around. Now, Monday Night Football has the Miami Dolphins traveling to Carolina, and I have a very special surprise for you because after Sunday, I'm going to be 16-13, But after Monday Night Football, I told you I had one game. The reality is I got two. Because after Monday Night Football, I'm going to be 17-13. I really like the Miami Dolphins to cover 9 points at Carolina. Now, what is my logic behind this? Well, last week I watched Atlanta come out to a double-digit lead, to watch Carolina come back and win 20-17. And I kept watching that and I was wondering, where have I seen this before? Well, earlier in the year, I think it was week 4, the Atlanta Falcons played Miami. They jumped out to a double-digit lead, only to have the Miami Dolphins come back and win 20-17. I think these two teams are very similar to each other. I think these two teams are very much alike. Kelvin Benjamin was just traded. He was arguably their best skill position player. Jay Ajayi, arguably the Miami Dolphins' best skill position player. He was traded. Both quarterbacks are SEC grads. And both teams really want to, run the ball, play a short passing game, and play good defense. I think if these two teams play about 10 times, I think it's 5-5. I don't think one team's considerably better than the other. That's why 9's too much of a line. Go ahead and take Miami and go ahead and collect. Now, if you're new to watching my videos, thank you very much for taking the time out to go ahead and watch. Hit that subscribe button. Bam! That's all you got to do, and you're a subscriber. You get some of the best content of the National Football League possible. Not only that, you get to check out this gorgeous stuff. I mean, I'm practically a supermodel. So, I got the looks department down. Now, this is all a work in progress. You're catching me at ground zero to Andrews Football. This is just me building my business, starting from scratch. So that's what I'm trying to do here. So thank you very much for watching. If you're already a subscriber, you're one of the best people on earth. And if you haven't subscribed, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. And don't forget to give me a thumbs up. Tell me how much you like this excellent content. You're not going to find anything else better. Well, the reality is it's still a work in progress. So let me know how I can improve. Leave a comment in the comments section. And until next time.